Welcome to Co-op Critics. Tony, what are we talking? Oh wait, we gotta say who we are. I'm getting better at this. I'm Zach Nichols.
And I'm Tony Fiducia, and we're talking about...
cinematic games.
We did it! Okay.
What exactly is it we're talking about with cinematic games?
Okay.
What's the problem?
Okay, so games have cutscenes and cinematics. Basically, you're playing a game, movie comes up, you stop playing the game, you watch the game, then you play the game after the thing stops. Got it? Okay. So a lot of games...
Perfect description of whatever that was.
Okay, so games over time are like, wow, these are really helpful for telling a story, because it's like movies. We know movies, right? We've seen those. So
We've done those.
Yeah, we've done those. That's a popular thing we know how to do. Games are a little new, so we're not really great at telling stories with those just yet. So we'll use the thing that we know, which is movies. And then it's like, those become like really popular.
Right.
Because a lot of people associate movies and games now with how to tell a story in a game. So
it makes it's something recognizable, something more grandiose that's already been done, so that they can be like, ah, yes, that looks really big budget and movie-like. That must mean it's good.
So advertisers pick up on the fact that now consumers associate good stories with cutscenes in games, so then they release games being like, look how cinematic this is. Look, it's a ship that's flying over a city or something.
I mean, think about all the game trailers that you've seen on like YouTube ads or whatever for the past like few months. Like there's like that Gears of War trailer, the one where it's like the kid running or whatever. Have you seen that?
And it plays the song Mad World behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
has nothing to do with the game.
No. Is there any gameplay in the trailer?
There's like, it's all cutscene, but you see like a concept of what the game could be like.
You see running and shooting, which they did in Gears of War 1.
Yeah, but it's like... So, the problem with this is, okay, it's okay to have a cutscene or a movie within a game.
One of your favorite games of all time is...
Final Fantasy.
And Metal Gear Solid.
And Metal Gear Solid, which are games...
Both very, very cinematic and story-heavy at certain points.
But there's games out there that, like The Order 1866... which are basically like, the developers thought, okay, we're gonna make a game and we're gonna make it with things that are popular, like shooting elements, like Gears of War actually. We're going to just tell the story through cutscene. The problem with that is the way that they designed the game is basically, even when you're supposed to be doing something like tackling on like this huge werewolf beast thing that's supposed to be intimidating, they stopped thinking, oh, well, you should fight the thing in the game with a weapon. Instead, they're like, here's a cutscene, press buttons.
Basically, it's like, the thing about that game that was such a crime was that even the parts that were a game were very little game. It's like, you have almost no input on what actually is happening in the game. You don't even get the option to crouch. It's a game where you like take cover and shoot people, but they do the crouching thing for you. Like, there's a few, or the running thing. It was like you couldn't run until the game told you to run. And you're like, how come I don't have the option of controlling my character in that way? It basically does everything it can to take away everything the player would be doing to play the game. And instead makes it as much like a movie as possible, which was wildly unsuccessful for that game.
Yeah, but other games get away with it all the time. You got games like Assassin's Creed.
Yes, Quantum Break recently did the same thing.
That's a big one, because like, in that game, like, there's... I watched Angry Joe do like a review of it, and he was talking about like the greatest, strongest enemy in the whole game is the doors at the end of the section, because you have to do whatever the game wants you to do within that little bit of play area, but if you try to go through the door, you die.
The door kills you. What happened to when we used to get to run around and explore areas a little bit more? And I mean, there are open world games, but it's like when you play a game like that, you're like, why am I even here?
Yeah,
the game basically just tells you exactly what to do, and then it's over.
Yeah, you lose your player agency within the story, because like, take a game like Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, the game starts out and it's like, okay, there's a girl who may be your girlfriend, may not. Either way, she's dead. And you're off to a temple to resurrect her. Okay, whatever. But that's it. That's all you get. The rest of the game is you just, like, taking on these colossi or whatever. But what makes the game so dramatic is the fact that all the things you do within the game are like really crazy. Like no one in their right mind would ever do this.
Oh, yeah.
To the point that you associate the drama of the situation and the characters with what you're doing. The game doesn't have to be like, all right, let me take you out of your eyes, show you around. Look, it's sad.
Yeah, it's like, let's show you a sweeping camera angle and have exhaustive dialogue about what's going on. It's like, I don't care. Who cares about that? And Shadow of the Colossus is just like, guess what? Your wife's dead. All right, what do you want to do? And it's like, oh,
I want to save my wife.
I want to save my wife. That's it.
And you do it.
That's all the game is. They've set up one thing and then they're like, you got to go defeat the giants. That's it. And you're like, oh, well, I better go do that. It's really interesting that this cinematic games thing is becoming larger and larger, and I don't really get it. Like, they kind of shut me off. Even like one of my favorite series, like I like Uncharted 2 and 3 a lot. I liked Uncharted 2 and 3, but as it's like the fourth one started coming out, and I saw that it was basically they were doubling down on the whole like, oh yeah, it's like a movie. And I'm like, yeah, but I really just liked it because it was a fun adventure game with some cool movie bits. But now they're really trying to make it look like a movie. Games being movie-like isn't necessarily bad.
Yeah.
There's plenty of games we love that do it right. A lot of the Telltale games are mostly just visuals in front of you.
The game is choosing your path through the story and like individual characters' decisions. But like the difference there, I think, is that Telltale games, David Cage games, although I know not everyone likes story.
I liked
although I do.
Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
Heavy Rain I thought was fun.
And even though, you know, in some of those games you might not impact the story as much as you want, the idea is that like it recognizes that it uses the movies within the game in a certain way to tell its story.
It takes the movie part seriously enough.
Yeah,
that it tries to do it well.
And it understands that your agency as a player isn't necessarily the individual actions you do as much as the decisions you make that impact the story overall.
Yeah, you have to feel like there's at least a reason why it's a video game instead of something else.
Yeah, whereas a game like The Order 1866 doesn't recognize how to consolidate those two storytelling devices or mediums and just throws them in together and is like, oh, this is a game, right? So let's have quick time events while you fight the big monster that is hyped up throughout the whole game.
Right. And the tough part too is that it's like these games, a lot of them are getting to the point, like Quantum Break, I can't judge it too much because I never played it, but from the look of it, it looks really standard and kind of boring and there was nothing to it. And the same thing happened with like The Order 1866, and it's like, why are we not focusing on what you do in the game part of it, the thing that makes it unique from movies? Instead, they're trying to make it more like Quantum Break literally just added a movie to it. There's real movies in it. And it's like, why is that what I would want out of my video games? It's okay to
Especially
be
if they suck.
especially if they're bad, which is what I heard. I heard they were like really poorly made.
It's like the worst, shittiest thing you would ever expect from a Netflix TV show.
Your mom's being difficult.
Oh,
She is.
I'm being difficult, huh?
She's being very difficult.
It's just frustrating because if you're gonna make a game cinematic, like go ahead and do it well or something. But I think it's not that bothers me. Like a game like Order 1866, that doesn't really bother me. What's bothering me is more that people are starting to really embrace that that's like the standard. Like the sort of Xbox One thing that keeps happening is all of their games are cinematic. And I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, what's wrong with games like Skyrim, which in essence isn't really a cinematic almost ever. At the very least, you can get that game credit that it's usually just a game, you know, and like, isn't that what people want? I don't really get like why we're needing to make games more like movies.
I think part of that is that a lot of people don't necessarily consider video games to be art.
Yeah, and I think that was a video I heard this whole problem brought up, was that video games are having a hard time being distinguished because they keep using trailers like the Gears of War trailer. It's like, look, it's like a movie, and it's like, yeah, but that's not what the point is.
Yeah. You were saying earlier, like Skyrim basically has like no like real like story or whatever.
It has a story, but it's not cinematic, really.
Yeah, like I was thinking back to like Mega Man X.
Yeah.
Or even just Mega Man, like...
Yeah, Mega Man. Great example.
Like, yeah, there's
What's the story? Gotta fight robots.
You jump and you shoot.
Jump and shoot, man.
Raptor.
Sorry.
But what's cool about that is that, like, there's almost no story except for, like, really the only thing I can think of in terms of traditional storytelling is, like, the music with each of the levels. Like if you go back and listen to the music, and you can maybe pull some of this up or whatever, is like all the music kind of sounds like, yeah, you're the hero, go kill him.
Yeah, true.
Like it's very like hype inducing.
Well, that's kind of one of the things I like about video games is you don't have to. The games can be really engaging without a terribly like dense story. Like, finally, I thought about this. One of our favorite games is Journey, which is an amazingly impactful game. We should totally. I'll pull up footage hopefully of Journey. It's a really, really impactful game that sticks with you for a long time. But the game's story is like one line long, really. Like it's you want to go here. That's the whole game.
It's not even like, it's just an image.
Yeah, they literally just point you in a direction, and they're just like, "You want to go there?" And you're like, "Yeah, I do. That looks cool."
Yeah,
that's the whole game.
Yeah, you wake up, you see a hill, you climb up to the top of the hill, and there's like a mountain in the background. You're like, "Yep."
The whole game is just what's on the hill? I don't know. I got to get to that hill.
Yeah, and then like each of like the individual interactions within the game, like when you first meet what I like call like the dogs, you'll probably know.
Yeah,
Like when you first see them, like they're like trapped, and you save them by like calling out them out, and then like later on in the game when everything's in winter and sucks, spoilers, but like
yeah, whatever.
You'll see those same things, but they're trapped, and like you try to save them, but they just keep like freezing to death, and so you're just like, well, I guess I just have to continue alone.
That's the thing is
And
there's tons you can do telling a story within a video game. Like you can get people attached to what's going on in a video game through so many more things other than just a straight movie. That's my problem. I'm like, there's like this we're growing towards cinematic video games. Like people are getting more and more into that. They're like, oh, Uncharted 4, that's like the next big thing. And I'm like, yeah, but it's basically Uncharted 2 and 3. We already did that. We've already done video games that look like movies. And the thing about it is that it's so limited. When you look at things like, Journey, or the other example I like is Half-Life. Half-Life always did a great job of just like trying to imitate other art forms. It's just exactly what it is, and it gets you engaged by, like in Half-Life, you don't know who Gordon Freeman is. You just know where you are and what you're doing. Yeah. And it's just like, here's what's happening, and you care because it makes sense to you as a person, like in that situation. It's like in Half-Life 2, it's like, one of the first things that happens that gets you to care about what's happening is a character saves your life. And you're like, oh, great. This girl's awesome. She saved my life. I care about her. Alex saves your life in Half-Life 2.
I thought you were talking about Barney.
Barney also saves your life too. Yeah, well there's a lot of that. It like gets you attached to the characters really quickly, and they're all like well written, but they don't stop to do a movie. They just talk to you directly, and you're like, oh, this is cool.
I was just thinking of something in terms of Half-Life 2. One of my favorite moments is probably like one of the best like storytelling moments in the beginning that just uses gameplay. Is you walk up to a gate, a guard's like prevents you from continuing, and there's a trash can. Oh. And the guard just looks at you, throws a can on the ground, and says, "Pick up that can." And it's just like,
and you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do what he says, but it's like one of those things where like he won't really let you continue unless you throw it away, or you can hit him in the face. But it's one of those things where it demonstrates the world in like a very simplified way, but it uses just gameplay. It doesn't have to like take you out of the cutscene and be like, all right, this guard comes up and he beats you around. And
but it's done so well, and it's like, you can't do that in a movie, and that's why that's so good. That's why Half-Life 2 was one of my favorite games, actually. It's on the top 5 favorite games list. You go click on the link over there or something.
Like, comment, subscribe.
But Half-Life 2, I love it because it's just done in a way that it's like, you're Gordon. Who's Gordon? Who cares? You're Gordon. And the whole game is just you going throughout all the scenarios, and they get you. You go through the game like they want you to because they designed it that way. The story makes sense to you, and you want to participate in it because it makes sense the way they made it. And that's why cinematic games growing is what bothers me, because it's like, that's not what's really cool. I want to play video games because video games are video games. Yeah. And they have great experiences like Portal and Half-Life. We keep pointing out like Valve games, but I mean, they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But the point is like that trash can sequence, that's so much more memorable than like shoving a movie in your face, because if you're going to do a movie, do a movie. And I mean, some movie games work, like we like Metal Gear Solid, it's like half a movie, and that's fine, it's fun. But still, take advantage of the fact that it's a game. Even Metal Gear Solid does that. It does some of the sequences in game, so yeah, that's why it bothers me. Make video games, not movies that take 1,000 years to render. Got anything else?
No, I think that closes.
Okay, yeah, this is cool.